a man whose intellect, innovation, and leadership have made remarkable contribution to Nigeria's development story. He is a globally respected scholar, engineer, inventor, and policy leader, a former Minister of Power, a professor of mechanical and industrial engineering, and a pioneer in Nigeria's quest for energy reform and technological advancement. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome for his lecture, though brief but concise, our keynote speaker, Professor Barth Nnaji. Please make him welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Please, can we give him another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen?
Good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, Mr. Chairman, Chief B.C. Akonde, the panelists here, Dr. Danladi Bako, Otumba Shegun Ronsowe. I also want to salute the families of the former, the premiers, the first premiers of the country, who formed this whole concept of universal education. I understand that Her Excellency Professor Mrs. Suchi Azikiwe is here. I also greet the families, the representatives of Chief Obafemi Awolowo, the foundation member of this universal education, the founder of this universal education, and also Alhaji Amadu Bello, represented here. I greet Alhaji Lai Mohammed. I also greet representatives of governors here and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Well, this public lecture, I must really applaud independent newspapers for thinking it right to have a discussion about universal education, considering where we are in our country about education. So it is, as said, it will be unusually brief. I have agreed with the organizers that it will, that I will touch on a couple of critical issues and leave them with a panel of experts who happen to be here. I may intervene if needed here and there. Education represents progress. The most fundamental difference between the developed nations and the developing ones is the level and quality of education. A leading African-American civil rights activist, Ella J. Baker, who passed away in 1986, but was really born in 1903, though she lived quite long, famously quipped, "Show the light, and the people will find the way." So this speech is, what I'm speaking is titled, "Show the light, and the people will find the way." And that's what it is. The great Sheikh of Africa reflected this statement in his Renaissance Africa, and also made it the motto of his crusading West African Pilot newspaper when it was founded in 1937. The launch of free universal primary education in Western region by Chief Obafomi Awolowo government on January 17, 1955 was a most important development in our nation's history. It led to massive enrollment figures in schools in the Western region. When General Olusegun Obasanjo government launched a similar scheme in the mid-1970s, there was an unprecedented upsurge in primary school enrollment throughout the Federation. In 1979, when the Unity Party of Nigeria controlled Lagos, Oyo, Ogun, Ondo, and Bendel states and launched the Universal Primary Education Program, school enrollment figures rose quite rapidly. People who were already approaching 20 years of age returned to primary school, showing that poverty was a major impediment in education. I would not have gone beyond primary school, but for the tradition and benevolence and solidarity in my extended family system. In that system, children who showed promise were supported by family members who could. My father supported my uncle, Basil, to go to school, and my uncle rose to become a primary school headmaster. He in turn supported me in primary school. Another uncle, Clement, who was supported in the same way and became a bank manager, also supported us. And that's how we have grown. Family supporting one another. Doesn't necessarily mean that the particular family doesn't have, but it is something that all of us did together. And if you look at the universal education, it is that concept that the governments and people join together to ensure that all the children are so educated. Mine was Catholic school, but because the missionaries controlled school system in the then Eastern region. But nonetheless, the concepts had been established, and I will talk a little bit about that. So I thank the management and staff of independent newspapers for commemorating the 70th anniversary of free universal education system in Nigeria. It was launched when there were only 3 regions in Nigeria, and the regions were in healthy rivalry. The Western region was the richest. Its main revenue earner, cocoa, was commanding high prices in international markets. Chief Awolowo, an education lover, had the vision to implement it. Besides, he had experienced hardship when he was growing up, which affected his educational pursuit. Like me, he lost his father early. Awo's love of education was such that, despite earning a degree in commerce from the University of London at home, which was a very important achievement in those days, he left his family behind to travel to England to study law. As he wrote in a letter published by Delegiwa's Sunday Concord in September 1980, Chief Awolowo read law to be able to enable him to be eloquent, as he thought at the time, like the great Zik, after watching Dr Danladi Bako address meetings of the Nigerian youth movement in Lagos. The rivalry between Nigerian nationalists did not prevent Chief Awolowo from launching his historic Tribune newspapers, Nigeria's oldest surviving newspaper, on November 16, 1949, the 645th birthday. What lesson can the present generation of Nigerians learn from our nationalists? It was predictable that the launch of free universal education in the West was going to spur the Eastern Nigerian region to declare free education. Free education in the East was, however, a qualified success. As President Jimmy Carter of the United States would put it, a qualified success. It was fiercely opposed by the Catholic Church, which owned or managed most schools, including all primary and secondary schools that I attended. Besides, there were not enough public schools, buildings, and facilities. So Eastern region was by far the poorest of the three regions, because palm produce, its main revenue earner, was fetching modest revenue. It could not grapple with the challenges of free universal education. But as I've noted, this was a period of healthy competition among the component groups of the Nigerian Federation. When Great Zik couldn't do through the free primary or through free education, he tried to make up through other strategies. For instance, he inspired and motivated communities to embrace education with gusto. They mobilized funds to award scholarships to promising community members, a practice which was captured in Achebe's No Longer at Ease. The result was that between 1945 and 1965, before the crisis of Nigeria, the region had wiped out their educational handicap. So the region, the East had begun to compete in the same way with the West, and the North had also cued in. I want to say that the model which Zik used in the East is what we, even in our family, began to use, which is the families would support free education. And so my family support the creation of free education for nursery, primary, and secondary school in our community. And it has been very, very helpful. The healthy competition continued after independence, when Eastern Region inaugurated the University of Nigeria at Nsukka in 1960. Western Region launched the University of Ife in 1962, and Northern Region commissioned later the same year the University of Northern Nigeria at Zaria, which eventually the name was changed to Ahmadu Bello University in honor of the Sardauna. This is healthy rivalry we would expect from states because it makes for rapid national progress. So we ask, why is it not happening today? So you know that when even Chief Jim Obodo launched Anambra State University of Science and Technology, Governor Melford Okilo responded with Rivers State University of Science and Technology. And Governor Lateef Jakonde set up the Lagos State University. And the graduates are of very high quality from these schools. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we're here to mark the 70th anniversary of free universal education in Nigeria. This is good. for countries like Germany have prospered through free education at all levels. Our nationalists who led us to independence had a good educational foundation for us. The main challenge facing us now, where do we go from here? What is the future of education in Nigeria? On September 23 this year, at the annual Fafunwa Memorial Lecture that I came to speak about, Fafunwa, Professor Aliyu Fafunwa, CON and former Minister of Education, had done so much in education. So at that lecture, I called attention to the imperative of embracing artificial intelligence in our education system, starting from primary school. But I wondered how our pupils could be taught artificial intelligence, even in secondary school, when most rural communities, in the rural communities, the teachers are not computer literate. I therefore propose that the federal government, all state governments, and all the 774 local government areas in the country to jointly work on pulling funds together to ensure that every teacher in these communities have access to computer. They should really have computers. So President Obasanjo's administration did something similar in a way, because they were able to pull funds to provide each divisional police officer in the country with a Toyota Prado SUV to enhance security nationwide. But we also have to remember that there was such a time that we had, that we produced vehicles. I was talking with my colleagues earlier. We produced vehicles in Nigeria, and all of the top government officials rode in them. When I was Minister of Science and Technology in the early 90s, my vehicles were Peugeot vehicles. And even the head of state at the time drove in a Peugeot car. Think of what the foreign exchange will look like if we did that, and how it could impact in providing what I'm talking about, these computers. How much do we spend in purchasing vehicles for public officers at the federal level, at state level, and local government levels? Just think about that. So, I want to say that the AI it's not just like a craze. It's not like a .com phenomenon that will just go away. It's here to stay. And Nigeria would need to be part of it. For Nigeria to be part of it, then the computing technology needs to be available. I personally, when I finished my doctorate in America, I went to MIT to take a program in artificial intelligence and robotics. And it certainly was the foundation of a lot of research I did as a professor in America. And I'll tell you, it's not going away. What it is manifesting, and our people need to be very much in the vanguard of this. But the only way is computer technology. So lastly, I would like the panelists to spare some moments on the quality of education in public primary and secondary schools. When I traveled to the United States in 1977, my studies in physics, mathematics, and engineering, I did well. And the only reason why I did well was that I went to schools that provided me the background. And I can tell you that those of us who went to school at that time, many of my colleagues are here, cannot be said to be disadvantaged in comparison to those who are in the Western countries. I also have to tell you that many Chinese, Indian, and other Asian students come to, when I was a professor in America, they come to study with us. But it was because their grounding was of the same quality, similar to what we have. So at the University of Massachusetts, we'll take a student from the Indian Institute of Technology who had first class, and there is such a thing as first class with distinction, and those are the people that we bring there, and they will just be first class in the university. We can continue to have the same thing. We used to have it, so it's not our brain. It is actually what we do to provide that quality education now that matters. And so both the government and the private sector need to do it. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we must see education as the fundamental instrument of development. We, that is both the government and us, the citizens, must do everything in our capacity to give it free to all of our children. I thank Your Excellencies, the management and staff of independent newspapers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for your time. God bless you. Thank you.
Please, can you give Professor Barth Nnaji another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? That was a succinct lecture, ably capturing from the historical to the present day and the need for us to involve and move forward, making use of AI in our present day form of education. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, once again, can you give Professor Barth Nnaji another round of applause? I'd like to inform this august gathering that this public lecture and award ceremony is being beamed live on News Central on DSTV 422 and GoTV 23. So we are live as we speak. I'd like to quickly, before we call on the panelists for a brief analysis of the presentation of Professor Barth, I'd like to recognize the representative of the Governor of Kano State, Governor Abba Yusuf, ably represented here by Comrade Ibrahim Abdullahi Waijai, Commissioner for Information and Internal Affairs. Thank you very much, sir. Accompanied by Honorable Haladu. I also like to recognize the grandson of Sir Amadou Bello, Mustafa Shehu Malami. Please, can you give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you very much, sir, for being here. It is my pleasure as well to recognize the representative of the Taraba State Governor, Dr. Abu Kefes, ably represented by Honorable Janet, I did that earlier. Thank you very much. I'd like to recognize Otumba Yomi Otubela, National President, National Association of Proprietors of Private Schools. Thank you very much, sir, for being here. Please, can you give him a round of applause? I'd like to, as well, recognize Chief Henry Odukomaya, ex-MD Champions newspaper, represented here by Mr. Odukomaya Roland. Please, can you give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you very much. Also here with us is the chairman of Dark Communication PLC, represented, I'm talking about Chief Raymond Dokpesi Jr., represented here by Dr. Christopher Eboitse, General Manager, AIT Lagos. Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. At this juncture, I'd like to invite our panelists, very capable and eminent broadcaster and art connoisseur. Please make welcome for their contribution in the next couple of minutes, Dr. Danladi Bako and of course, Otumba Shegun Rusewe. Please, can you give both of them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Please, you can come forward. Please, let's encourage them. Let's give them a lusty round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. I've been co-opted as the moderator, and one of the good things of being a broadcaster is you can actually function and navigate your way around conversations such as this. And of course, I've been told we've got the next 10 minutes to talk about this. I would like to start with you, Dr. Danladi Bako. First, perhaps your thoughts on the presentation of Professor Barth Nnaji. What can you make of it, and how does this move our education system, talking about primary 70 years ago to the present day education? How do we move it forward?
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, the chairman of the occasion, Chief B.C. Akande, former governor 1999 to 2007. I recognize the management of independent newspapers. I recognize all the representatives of the governors here. I recognize the former Minister of Information, Alhaji Mohammed. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Professor Barth Nnaji is not just a name. He is an intellectual, he's a professional, and he spoke with candor, and he traced the history of how primary education started, how it affected in the Southwest, how it was handled in the North, and how it was handled in the East. And of course, all those that were responsible for that progression, he recognized them. Most importantly, he drew our attention to the fact that there was healthy competition. As at 1999, I was Director General of NBC, and I visited about 3 states in the Southwest. I visited Chief B.C. Akande, I visited Chief Fashoronti, then I visited Ashiwaju, and I noticed what healthy competition was, because they all worked hard to carry on the legacies of the parties they represented. So today, when you see and do an analysis of 36 states, you ask yourself, what do the governors really do? Do they compare notes? The opportunity of having a governors forum is to compare notes. The opportunities of having a Northern Governors Forum is also to compare notes. How often do the commissioners of information, commissioners of education compare notes whenever they meet? Do they have time to meet? How do they discuss the economic policies, the educational policies of their states? So, why do we still have a low literacy level in some parts of the North? Sometimes secondary school, barely 15% literacy level. And that is sad, because if you had followed where Ahmadu Bello started, by now we should have somewhere like 60% literacy level. And why? What are the problems? Some parents do not think it is worthwhile going to primary school, because when the child finishes his primary school, what happens? Sometimes they don't get jobs, they don't get secondary school education. Sometimes there are other demands. They can't eat, they can't do anything. So the children are sent out to go and roam the streets and sell granite in the morning before going to school at 9 a.m. So in many parts of this country, you'll find children roaming the streets at 9 a.m. You'll ask, don't they have teachers? Even at 12 noon, children have left the school. They're going back home. Of course, don't even talk about rainy season. Rainy season, the parents take them to go and do farm. So, have we tackled those problems? What are the solutions? How are the governors handling this? What is their agenda for education? 80% of the time when people go out to campaign, I don't hear them talking about education at primary level. I hear them talking about, I'll give youth 40% of my cabinet, women 30%. If these youths are not educated, what are they going to do with the 40% you're going to give them? So we have all these challenges. In some parts of the Southeast, they would rather send a boy of 5 to go and learn to be an apprentice of a spare part dealer rather than go to primary school. True or false? So who is to blame? Where do we start? So we have challenges like that. And of course, quite clearly, when I was growing up, you had to go to Quranic school in the evenings. We managed it in such a way that in the mornings you went to proper Western education, in the evenings you went to Islamia. But as we speak today, President Jonathan came to Sokoto in 2011 and set up Quranic schools and Islamia. Those schools have been abandoned. If you go there now, rats and lizards are all over those schools. Why? The kind of consultation that was done about the quality of primary school education and the integration process was weak. And just to round off for this section, the moment you don't have quality primary education, everything else that you do upwards is zero, is gone. So poor quality education at the primary school level is bad. I can assure you that even now as we speak, for you to admit people into reading education in the university, they admit people who scored 140 in JAMB to become teachers. So when a person that scored 140 in JAMB becomes your teacher in primary school, by the time you finish that secondary school, your brain is as poor as that 140 JAMB. So how can you pass your exam when the lecturer that taught you scored 140? And they send them to education. Go and read education physics. Go and read education geography. Go and read education chemistry, education history. So we have problems. Fortunately, I was privy to the manifesto of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's Renewed Hope agenda. I was part of it. I was campaign manager, and I know there are segments of that document, manifesto, that deals with quality education starting from primary school level. We pray that we get to do it before the end of this tenure.
Please, can you give Dr. Danladi Bako a round of applause? He has put it succinctly, and I'll just come for you just to wrap up for 30 seconds. Well, let me come to Tumba here, and that is, in the 50s and 60s, we have those who anchored their governance on education. We have Ahmadu Bello, we have Awolowo, we have Nnamdi Azikiwe. Is that they felt that the people will need education to thrive. That's the future. So who takes the lead now, today? Or how do we go about it? They talked about the challenge of not comparing notes among governors in Nigeria to make it a healthy competition. So who takes the lead now, and how do we go forward with our education, especially a basic level?
Thank you very much for this opportunity to express some views on our educational system in our great country. But permit me today to celebrate a great leader, Chief BC Akonde, CFR. I was opportune to be with him when he granted an interview on this subject. Believe me, it was like going for another lecture class for like 1 year. Chief BC Akonde exposed everything in total. And today, I married what Chief BC Akonde said with Professor Barth Nnaji. And my dear brother here, Kogun and Sokoto, I've said some things, but let me apologize because I may offend some people. The Yorubas have a saying that when two brothers enter the room, they come out smiling. They've not told themselves the truth. I will start by celebrating Independence Limited for bringing this subject up at this material time. 70 years after, I beg for everyone to give Daily Independence a round of applause. Really, we should celebrate them because, and also today, all the governors represented here today, I pray God will bless all the states. We must sit down and agree, like Danladi Bako mentioned. We don't even compare notes. Some of us are ready to celebrate Big Brother Nigeria, Davido dancing, etc. Today, our Nigerian youth are becoming criminals, kidnappers, etc. The reason is lack of proper education. We are disconnected, and people are here today discussing how to make the progress. How do we make it? When teachers are now selling handouts to students. If you pay more, you get more marks. If you don't have money to buy their handouts, you have failed. Please, Nigeria was a great country when we started this educational stuff. University of Ibadan, the VC is here. At a time, Plateau State in Jos was having a campus of University of Ibadan. Even in Ilorin, there was no healthy competition. We're not arguing with each other. Please, the time has come. I'm appealing. Enough of all this speaking English and we end up going again back home. Nothing happens. I think the governors must sit down and check and have a KIV development strategy on what is being done well. Before I round up, please, not every student should become a PhD holder. Please, we have to start to develop our institutions. A student, for instance, in my sector, you don't need a PhD to become one of the best. In fact, if you make F9, you are useful in culture and tourism because it's creativity. What can you produce? We have so many university students today that have never seen the engine of a car. And they have BSc, they have MSc, they have everything. Please, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm making an appeal here today. Let us leave this place today with a new look of Nigerian educational system. While I say this, in 1959, when the Queen of England sent her team to meet the Tafawa Balewa, the Awolowo, the Azikwe at Tafawa Balewa School here, nobody is talking of, do you have PhD, do you have BSc, do you have PhD? No. How can we develop what will make Nigeria to be great? Some people struggle to take Nigeria to where we are today. While I round up, please, Chief M.K. Abiola, when he was alive, he said something. No matter how intelligent a man is or a woman, you cannot clap with one hand. I plead with all Nigerians, let's join hands with Daily Independence newspaper to clap and make a new Nigerian for the best of this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I've got 2 minutes more, Dr. Bako. I'd just like you to just wrap up and help us with your thoughts on how to get this going as far as education is concerned.
I had the rare privilege of interviewing Professor Aliyu Babatunde Fafunwa on Morning Ride in the 80s about 4 or 5 times. That's when he talked about 6334, each one teach one. He continued with these legacies of Sir Ahmadu Bello, Awolowo, and Nnamdi Azikiwe. As we speak, the level of enrollment in primary school seems to be stagnant because there's not enough funding. The teachers are not well taken care of. Primary school teachers now with an NCE, up till last year were earning 15,000 naira. An NCE teacher in a primary school in Sokoto earns 15,000 naira. Now that is difficult to handle. So we have all of those things. I will only appeal that the governors make more efforts. I think some of them are making an effort, some of them are trying, but the primary school is where it should be. Unfortunately, the Constitution of Nigeria leaves the primary school education to local government chairmen and co. How many of those local government chairmen are interested in education? How many of them even have the education? Let's assume that you are not even interested in education. How many of them want to provide technical skills? How many of them want to provide handcrafts? When I was in secondary school, I learned about physics, Archimedes' principle of flotation buoyancy in Form 3. That wasn't useful to me anymore. Archimedes' principle of flotation buoyancy did not make sense to me after I left Form 3. Gay-Lussac's law in chemistry, I didn't use it anytime. What kind of education do we produce that will produce functional secondary school students that will go on from there to acquire skills, technical skills? In the Chinese and Malaysian and Far East, secondary school students produce all these lamps that we go and buy in the market, lamps, these fluorescent lamps, they produce them. At the age of 16, 17, what do we produce here? And how can we produce them? And how can we make our educational system functional just in case a student stops at primary school level? Can he be useful? If he can, then we give glory to God. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Otumba, your pattern short.
Thank you very much. You see, I want us to look at one aspect today. So many of our graduates only have the certificate in their hand without any form of practical knowledge. We should change that attitude and bring in the practicality of everything we study. And I'd like to mention quickly here today, why do we bring out 200,000 graduates of chemical engineering? Where is the chemical we are working on? Why don't you prioritize what can make our country better? You bring out engineers, building engineers, who don't even know how to mix cement with the right sand. Please, ladies and gentlemen, for the future of this country, like is said in our national anthem, so that the labor of our heroes shall not be in vain. The time has come. We should change our attitude to make Nigeria a better place for the unborn Nigerians. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please can you give our panelists a round of applause? I want to say thank you very much, Dr. Danladi Bako, Koguna of Sokoto, for putting it very well as to let's make this worthwhile as far as our education is concerned. And please help me thank Otumba Shegun Rusewe, ON, for your thoughts and the fact that when you acquire your education, make sure it counts. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please can you give our panelists another round of applause? I think I'm aware that some plaque will be given to you. Please, can I invite MD to help present the plaques to our panelists? Please, can you give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? While he is about to do that, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please, I'd like to tell you that the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is here. Can somebody clap? The President is here. Please, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, is here, ably represented by the Executive Secretary, Universal Basic Education, Ms. Aisha Garba. Please, can you give her a round of applause? Thank you, Mr. President, for honoring our invitation. Thank you very much. Please, can you give Dr. Danladi Bako a round of applause? Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, MD. Please, Can I crave the indulgence of Professor Barth Nnaji to please come to the podium for your own award? Please, can you give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you very much, sir. He delivered a wonderful keynote address. Thank you very much, sir, for being here. Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, can you give Professor Barth Nnaji a round of applause? And of course, our MD, Editor-in-Chief, Mr. Steve Omanufemi, for the presentation. Your Excellencies, please, okay, can I invite all our panelists and Professor Barth Nnaji for a photo op? Just quickly, let's do this. Thank you very much. Prof, can you just come forward? Thank you. Thank you very much. Please, I will respectfully honor and recognize the wife of Chief Nnaji Azikiwe, Professor Uche Azikiwe. Please, can you give her a round of applause? That's the new lady of the family. Please, can you give her a sounding applause? Thank you very much. Happy to have you on the sector. Thank you. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we're moving to the second leg of this gathering, and that is the award presentation. But before we go forward, please pay attention to the screen as we review the launch of free universal primary education. Please pay attention to the screen.
Nigeria marks 70 years since the launch of free universal primary education, a bold experiment that began in the 1950s and one that reshaped the country's destiny. It was a time when three visionary leaders, Obafemi Awolowo in the west, Nnamdi Azikiwe in the east, and Ahmadu Bello in the north, each took different but determined steps to open the doors of learning to their people. In the Western region, on January 17, 1955, the action group led by Chief Obafemi Awolowo had promised the people free education. That morning, the experiment was put to the test. The government expected around 170,000 new entrants, but what they saw was unprecedented. Nearly 390,000 children turned up on the very first day. By the end of that year, enrollment had soared from about 457,000 in 1954 to over 811,000 in 1955. Teacher numbers had to rise quickly from 17,000 to 27,000. the Western region became the first in Africa to achieve large-scale, free and compulsory primary education. It was an ambitious step, and it changed the social fabric of the West forever. 2 years later, the Eastern region rose to the challenge under the leadership of Dr. Danladi Bako, Premier of the East and leader of the MCNC. Free universal education was introduced in 1957. Enrollment rose sharply from 904,000 in 1956 to over 1.2 million in 1957. Classrooms overflowed and teachers were in short supply. But Azikwe's insistence on mass education created opportunities for a generation of Eastern Nigerians. That same year, Lagos, then the Federal Territory, adopted free education. As the nation's capital, Lagos ensured that the federal heartbeat of Nigeria was part of this educational revolution. In the northern region, Sir Ahmadu Bello, the Saldana of Sokoto, chose a gradual but strategic path. He expanded access through free schooling in rural areas, integrating Quranic and Western education to respect cultural traditions. The Saldana's policies laid the foundation for the North's first generation of educated elites who would later help steer Nigeria after independence. Across the regions, challenges mounted. Overcrowded classrooms, hurriedly built schools, and teachers' shortages defined the era. Budgets were stretched to breaking point, yet the hunger for learning was unmistakable. These regional programs showed that Nigerians wanted education and that governments could no longer ignore the demand. In 1976, under General Olusegun Obasanjo's military administration, the federal government launched the first nationwide universal primary education (UPE) program. This was a direct descendant of the 1950s regional schemes. The program faced familiar challenges: inadequate infrastructure, overstretched teachers, and funding shortfalls. But it confirmed the federal government's responsibility for education. In 1999, President Obasanjo returned to the same vision, launching the Universal Basic Education (UBE) program. Successive governments from Yar'Adua, Jonathan, Buhari to the current administration, led by Tinubu, invested massively in UBE program. Several state governments across Nigeria's geopolitical zones have since domesticated the UBE Act with various levels of successes recorded to date.
States like Lagos, Kano, Nasarawa, Ekiti, Kogi, Taraba, Ogun, Anambra, to mention but a few, continue to take giant steps towards making the vision of universal basic education as established by our founding fathers a reality for children in their respective states.
Looking back, the story of free education in Nigeria is the story of three visions. Awolowo's bold leap in the West, Azikwe's determination in the East, and Bello's careful groundwork in the North. The regional experiments of the 1950s created a momentum that the federal government carried forward in 1976 and again in 1999. 70 years on, classrooms across Nigeria from city centers to rural villages still echo with the legacy of those choices. Millions have passed through school because of those bold commitments.
Ladies and gentlemen, please can you give a round of applause for that documentary that chronicles the years of our universal primary education, as well as those leading the fight in ensuring that our people are educated. Once again, another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. At this point, I would like to have the chairman's remark. Here I'm talking about one of the pillars of our democracy in Nigeria, a true Democrat and someone who has led not only from behind but from the front, ensuring that our democracy is stable. He's also known for his vocal ability in ensuring that we do the right thing as far as this country is concerned. He's a former governor of Osun State and former chairman of the All Progressives Congress. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please can you give Chief BC Akonde, CFR, a round of applause as he gives us his remark. Oh, thank you. Oh, Baba can still come here. Please keep clapping, keep clapping, keep clapping. Thank you very much, sir.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I start from the representative of Mr. President, maybe the future woman president of Nigeria. You're welcome. Professor Nnaji and the panelists, the distinguished, let me say, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Maybe I should have been introduced as one of the pioneering teachers of the 1955 free primary education. Education has conflicting definitions. However, for the purpose of our present discourse, education may be viewed in the context of Nigeria's stage of development 70 years ago, and may be defined with perception and practice as learning by apprenticeship and by imitation. This definition was more applicable in the most rural parts of Nigeria, and particularly then in the western region, which consisted mostly of rural communities where education through the institutionalized learning, such as what is now known as schools and classified curricula, was very scattered. Learning through schools and similar institutions then was complicated and confusing to the illiterate parents who, in most parts of Western region, especially because of the existence of numerous madrasa institutions for Muslim children, faced the free education reforms. To further compound the complications and the confusions, the Free Universal Education Project, originally proposed in 1953 by Obafemi Awolowo's Action Group government, was to be compulsory, along with sanctions of imprisonment for defaulting parents. It is unfortunate, however, that the progress of such purposeful education as then established became stultified and bastardized by the military intervention in the Nigerian governance. Before the military forcefully imposed themselves as the government of Nigeria, most of all the educational institutions were being methodically established and scrupulously managed by the various diligent educationists among the religious and individual proprietors. There were 4 autonomous regions, each of which was free to decide on its educational policies. These proprietary established and managed schools were appropriately and duly being grant-aided to accommodate the facilities of whatever type of scholarship and whatever type of free education desired by each of the regional governments that had policies for free education at various levels. Suddenly, these various institutions of learning were forcefully taken over and appropriated by the federal military government in 1976. And these suddenly snatched educational institutions were being handed over to the numerous new states that was being created with new governments and new civil service structures having no proper trainings and experiences in institutional proprietorship. The various governments became overburdened and overwhelmed by the responsibilities of these expanded moduled facilities. Hence, the present decay being experienced in educational infrastructure, in learning curriculum, and in teaching methodology. To celebrate the remnant of the numerous innovations derived from such educational revolutions, which began 70 years ago, is the reason why we now assemble here tonight. I sincerely thank and congratulate the Independent Newspapers Limited for bringing us together as a reminder that universal comprehensive education at all levels is the most important asset for man to be truly independent in any decent society and in a worthy independent country. Long live the Independent Newspapers Limited. Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Please, can I invite, please, another round of applause for Baba once again. Please, can I invite the matriarch of the Azikiwe family, Professor Uche Azikiwe, to help present the plaque to Chief Bisi Akunde. Please, can you encourage her by giving her a round of applause? Thank you. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you very much, Professor Uche Azikiwe. Thank you for helping us with the presentation. Can you give both of them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you very much. I want us to do something very significant now. Okay, I want us to do something very significant, and that is, I'm sure some of us missed it when Baba started the presentation, so I'll just remind us just briefly. And that is, Baba said, some of you do not know that I was one of the pioneer teachers in 1955. So I wonder how many of us were alive then. So can I crave your indulgence to please be on your feet and give Baba another round of applause? Let's do that. Let's celebrate him. Let's celebrate him, ladies and gentlemen. That is significant. Thank you very much, Baba. You deserve much more. Thank you for being a pioneer in educating Nigeria and Nigerians. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to recognize another important dignitary here present, the granddaughter of Sir Ahmadu Bello, former Premier of Northern Region, Hajia Hafsatu Ali Shinkafi. Please, can you give her a round of applause? Thank you for being here. We appreciate you. Thank you. Please, let's recognize as well former Minister of Steel Development, Architect Olamileko Adigbite. Thank you for being here as well. Where is he? Thank you for being here. Thank you. At this point, I'd like to invite Mr. President. I'm sure the President has a message for us because the President is passionate about education. We all know what he's doing as far as the student loan scheme is concerned, making sure that education is available for those who are less privileged or the indigent. Please, can we make welcome the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, ably represented here today by the Executive Secretary, Universal Basic Education Commissioner, Aisha Garba. Please, can you give her a round of applause? That's the President. Thank you very much.
The Chairman, His Excellency Chief BC Akande, representatives of Excellencies, Governors of Kogi, Enugu, Nasarawa, Taraba, Lagos, Ogun, Anambra. The Managing Director, Independent Newspaper, the management and staff, representatives of family, the representatives of Chief Family, representatives of Chief Obafemi Awolowo, other dignitaries, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It is a profound honor to join you at this historic event organized by the Independent Newspapers Limited to mark 70 years of free universal primary education in Nigeria. 70 years ago in Ibadan, Chief Obafemi Awolowo declared that every Nigerian child, regardless of their circumstances, must have free access to primary education. Dr. Danladi Bako carried the torch to the east in 1957, while Sir Ahmadu Bello extended it to the north in 1960. What began as a regional policy became a national covenant. Our founding fathers did not merely launch a program or a policy. They defined a national identity that Nigeria's greatness is rooted in the enlightenment and education of all. Tonight, we honor that old vision and the tradition it established. For 7 decades, classrooms built with public funds and sustained by the education of our teachers have opened doors of opportunities to millions of Nigerians within and outside the country. Free primary education has served as a ladder out of poverty and bridge to dignity for countless of families across the country. Anniversaries honor us fidelity. The torch lit in Ibadan was not dim. It is the duty of every government to renew that covenant that education, schooling is the right of every Nigerian child. Under this administration, that renewal has a name, the Renewed Hope Agenda. It is not a slogan, but the organizing principle of this particular administration to make education once again the engine of national renewal, the guarantor of equal citizenship, and the path to shared prosperity. We honor the foresight of Awolowo, Azikwe, and Amadi Bello. We celebrate the teachers and parents who kept faith in their vision. And we declare that this generation will finish what they began. Our success will not be measured by promises, but by the future secured in every community, in every local government, and in every state. Today, education is no longer an aspiration, but is Nigeria's common inheritance. Our charge is to make it a reality, consistently, transparently, for every Nigerian child. We must face the truth with courage while celebrating this milestone. Nigeria is home to more than 230 million people, the Africa's largest population, and one of the youngest in the world, with 70% of our citizens under the age of 30. If we equip this generation with the foundational knowledge and the necessary skills, they will become the drivers of innovation and productivity for decades. At the same time, the advances in digital technology provide us with the opportunity for higher quality education. The machine learning, artificial intelligence are opening new frontiers for transformation in teaching and learning globally. For Nigeria, it provides a unique opportunity to accelerate progress and close the long-standing gaps. Education is not just a social service. It is a national security imperative, economic growth strategy, and it is a moral duty. Every naira we invest in education is an investment in Nigeria's future. Our youth are our greatest asset, but also our most significant test. We cannot stand by while our children are out of school. We must guarantee access and learning. We must deliver quality and equity. Anything less will betray the covenant made 70 years ago. When I assumed office, I declared that our government will place education at the foundation of our national rebirth. Under the Renewed Hope Agenda, education now stands at the center of policy, financing, and governance. For too long, the sector was fragmented. Agencies worked in silos and uncoordinated. That era has ended. Through the Nigeria Education Sector Renewal Initiative of the Federal Ministry of Education, every parastatal, UBEC, Universal Basic Education Commission, TED Fund, NCCE, NERDC, NEL Fund, are all aligned under one sector plan, under one vision, under a clear budget. We also confronted the hard truth that Nigeria lacked reliable education data. That is why we launched the Nigeria Education Data Initiative at the Federal Ministry of Education, our first real-time national data platform. Data has become our tool of accountability. Today, we're working to know all the children that are enrolled, all the children that are out of school, where our teachers are, and how teachers and schools are performing. The Universal Basic Education Commission has evolved from a grand administrator to true system reformer, guided by its strategic blueprint, which focuses on increasing equitable access in all parts of Nigeria, improved quality learning, stronger financing, and institutional reform nationwide. Basic education reform also includes the revise of the federal government matching grant formula, which provides states with greater flexibility to address specific education gaps and build accountable system in using education funds. For the first time in more than 20 years, the Basic Education Action Plan has been revised, allowing states to access the federal government grant and plan effectively and to be digitally tracked and transparent in effective implementation and delivery of basic education services. As a result of these reforms, within a year, more than 28 states have accessed 70% of the unaccessed funds that have been laid for many years at the federal government. These funds have now been unlocked to accelerate further investments in education, to improve access and quality in every state and every local government. We have doubled the government budgetary allocation, and we have mobilized development financing for education, reaching children across all parts of Nigeria. Development partners, state governments, parents, teachers, other key stakeholders, they continue to play invaluable roles in basic education. These reforms are already showing visible results. Within 2 years, over 500,000 teachers are being trained on pedagogical methodologies to improve quality teaching to our children. More than 20 million that are within the basic education sector in Nigeria are being positively impacted with the ongoing interventions. We have rolled out a new national school curriculum for basic education, which reintroduces history and the study of Nigerian languages to strengthen national identity and foster unity. Over 10,000 classrooms are being built, and over 1,935,000 classrooms are being renovated. We have distributed over 1 million textbooks nationwide. Through NEL Fund, 600,000 young Nigerians have secured financing, and they can now pursue higher education without fear of exclusion. Opportunity is no longer tied to family wealth. This year, we're investing millions in technical vocational education training, with 38 new technical colleges established. By 2030, 5 million youth will be trained as artisans, technicians, and coders. This shows how this administration is honoring the covenant of 1955 with reform, with systematic renewal, and with proof and impact on the ground. The promise made in 1955 did not belong to one region. It became the conscience of a nation. Today, that promise is alive in every zone, adapted to local realities, delivered through state leadership, and measured by results. Inclusion will be paramount. Exclusion will be treated as an emergency. From the girl child to the child with disability, to the child that is out of school, from the displaced learner to the rural child, every Nigerian child and citizen must find a place in classroom. 70 years ago, our founding fathers laid a torch of mass education. It has never dimmed, and with God on our side, it will only get brighter. Under the Renewed Hope agenda, we recommit to that covenant. Every Nigerian child must be in school, must learn, and must be prepared for a life of dignity and opportunity. We declare this as our national duty. Let history record that we did not merely celebrate the 1955, but honored its mandate, turning the era of free education into living reality of learning for all. Let the world say of Nigeria, here is a nation that made education the heartbeat of its democracy, the cornerstone of its economy, and the soul of its future. Thank you, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Please, can you give Mr. President another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you very much, ma'am, for delivering that speech very well. A few words or few phrases caught my attention. The first is education is no longer an aspiration but a right. And the latter part of that speech was every child must find a place in the classroom. I think that is a hope that is renewed. Please, can we give Mr. President another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? I'd like to quickly recognize the representative of Oba Oladimiji Latif Egbeyemi Madari One Oloba of Oba Kingdom, Chief Adewale Oshoanifuwoshe, the Ashoju Oba of Oba Kingdom. Please, can you give him a round of applause? Kabisio. I also like to recognize Group Chairman, Mutual Benefits Assurance PLC, Dr. Aki Ogunbiyi. We are happy to have you join us here today. Thank you for being our guests. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, while we are, of course, the aroma, the scent of this room has changed, and I think it makes for a more convivial atmosphere. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting to one of the important parts of this program. For every awardee that will be given today, we'll have a short recap of our eminent personalities that will be receiving the award. First is the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, followed by, if we have our programs with us, it is clearly stated there. I will follow in that particular order. So, if I can get the prompting. So, our first award will be going to the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Our award is about being the Education Ambassador, Her Excellency Senator Oluremi Tinubu, the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Lady of Nigeria, Oluremi Tinubu's education achievements focus on promoting access to schooling and providing scholarships for students. This continues as a long-standing advocacy for youth and women education, which began during her time as the First Lady of Lagos State. Independent Ambassador for Education, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, First Lady of Nigeria. As First Lady of Nigeria, Oluremi Tinubu's education achievements focus on promoting access to schooling and providing scholarships for students. This continues as a long-standing advocacy for youth and women education, which began during her time as the First Lady of Lagos State.
Please, can you give the First Lady a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Can we crave the applause of our PCI Chief to help us present this to the representative of the First of the President? Thank you very much. Please, can you give them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chief Bisi Akode, and of course, the representative of the President helping us to receive that award. The next award will be the Governor of Nasarawa State. Please, can we pay attention to the screen? After the short clip, I'll invite Otumba Ushewe to help us present the award to the representative of the Governor.
Independent Ambassador for Education, Governor Abdullahi Sule, Executive Governor of Nasarawa State. Governor Sule of Nasarawa State has focused on comprehensive reforms in the education sector since his election in 2019, with efforts spanning infrastructure development, teacher recruitment, and innovative funding initiatives. In 2025, the state prioritized education by allocating it the largest portion of the budget.
Very much. Can we invite, please, Otumba Ushewe and the representative of the Governor? Please, can you give them a round of applause? Let's encourage them, please. Thank you very much. Dr. John Mamman, the Commissioner for Education. Thank you very much, sir. Please, Otumba, don't go yet. Please. Thank you. The next person is the Governor of Ekiti State, the Education Ambassador, His Excellency Governor Abiodun Oyebanji.
Independent Ambassador for Education, Governor Abiodun Oyebanji, the executive governor of Ekiti State. Under Governor Oyebanjo's administration, Ekiti State has implemented several initiatives to improve its education sector, focusing on infrastructure, technology, and access.
All right, what we are watching right now is live coverage of 70 years anniversary of the free universal primary education in Nigeria, organized by the independent newspapers, holding at the hotels and suites. And of course, we are seeing there dignitaries from the political, business, and also academic space. Well, this, of course, is the beat we can show you, but rest assured that News Central will keep you up to speed as regards happenings there. Well, up next is Politics HQ.